Bark Jockey Potential. Welcome back to Sound the Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. It's the best part of the AFL season for all fans. We're finally on the Burke of finals, and one final is in the books, and we can now review it. So, just on last night, quickly, Port Adelaide Geelong. I thought it was most uncharacteristic of Geelong. They seemed to fumble it. They weren't clean with the footy. Their entries were shallow and a little lackluster, and Port just ran all over them. And it was really from the start of the game to the end of the game, it was just all Port Adelaide. So
Yeah, 100%. I think Geelong were really, really, really poor throughout the whole game. As you said, they fumbled the whole game. And Lee Matthews says, I think it's Lee Matthews, says whoever fumbles the most normally loses. And Geelong just looked every time they touched it, they looked to fumble. Even Dangerfield, who's one of the game's greatest players of all time, he dropped some pretty uncontested marks, which led to straight to goals. Normally we see Geelong take like 100 uncontested marks and dominate the uncontested possessions. They lost 232 to 179 in that count. They lost the contested possessions. Their disposal efficiency was worse. So they got just beaten on every single front of the game. I think it partly speaks to Port's pressure, but I think it also speaks to just how poor they really were.
yeah, a few positives for Geelong though. Mitch Duncan in his first game back, he was exceptional. Racked up the Super Coach points as well. I think he had 120. So alongside him, Bradley Close on the wing played well, and Isaac Smith was consistent. But yeah, next week either against the Swans or the Giants, and we may as well transition into that now. We have our finals brackets ready, and I know the last time we did one of these, Dave, it was a little interesting, and you were skeptical of mine. But here is mine.
So
So we can't change this
yeah,
game.
obviously we both picked Geelong to beat Port Adelaide,
Yeah.
but that obviously didn't happen. So that was our brackets already ruined after one game. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't mind it. In
Hmm.
fact, it's almost identical to mine. I have Geelong beating Brisbane, and that's it. And then, or I have Geelong beating Brisbane, and then Melbourne beating Geelong in the grand final.
Interesting. The only thing with me, and the only concern is the Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
They've been patchy as of recent, and we saw their matchup a couple of weeks ago where Peter Wright just took them down with 6 goal or 7 goals, and they managed to defeat the Dogs. So I'm still questioning whether or not Essendon can get over the line because they're a big chance. Darcy Parish, Zach Merritt, they've got some morale boost after being in the All Australian team or squad, and who knows what could happen.
Yeah, I think they did get smashed, or they did play very well against the Bulldogs. They beat them by 13 points. And as you said, Peter Wright kicked seven. But the number one key defender for the Bulldogs in Alex Keith wasn't playing in that game. So he'll obviously be the first matchup and the first player that goes to Peter Wright, which will definitely help the Bulldogs. And I doubt he'll kick seven on a quality player like Alex Keith. Um, but we know the Bulldogs, as you said, have been so bad the last 5 or 6 weeks. But at their best, they're almost better than any other team, if not the best team in the league. So depends which Bulldogs we get. They've been a little bit inconsistent, but I think they can still win.
Yeah, and if you look over to the semi-finals, we all know what happened when this occurred. The semi-final of 2005, the great Nick Davis kicked 4 goals in the last quarter, and an exceptional effort by him. But that's my bracket. I'll have a look at yours now. So here we are with Zaves.
So it's very similar to your one, most of which are the same. Uh, I think the only one different was Melbourne beating Brisbane in the grand final. I think Brisbane have played some really, really, really good footy as of late, and I think the additions of Harris Andrews and Mitch Robinson are really going to help them go deep in the finals. But I think Melbourne's such a deep team, and they've just been so good this year. They had what I think 5 All Australians, and then they had some stiff ones as well. I know I had Bailey Fritsch in my team, and I was pretty certain he'd make it, kicking the most of all small forwards in the league. Krishna Salem was a little bit stiff as well. He's one of the better halfback flanks in the league, at least this year. And then they have so much youth as well. They had 3 players in the under 22s team, including Kasai Pickett, who kicked 30 something goals, and Luke Jackson, who won the Rising Star. So they've been really, really good, and I think they can get it done. The one I'm more concerned about is the Melbourne versus Geelong game. I think if Geelong get Tom Stewart by that stage back, which we don't know if they will,
No.
depends, I guess, maybe a little bit if they have a bye after the semi-finals, which they've discussed. That will definitely help him. But if he does come back, I think I might tip Geelong. But for now, I'll be tipping Melbourne.
Yeah, I think he is stated to be out for the season, and it's amazing how one player can affect a whole team we saw last night. And it's amazing how a double chance can be so prolific to a team because we both have the Bulldogs going down in the semi final. And at the start of the year, we all thought that they were thriving, and all of a sudden they lose in the last few rounds and they finish fifth. So our grand final is the same, Zave. The Demons and the D's, who have both been prosperous for the last few weeks, and you've got the D's winning. Is there any reasons towards that?
Just as I said before, they've been really, really good all home and away season. They finished first on the ladder. They've got the rising star Luke Jackson to go along with their 5 Australians and 2 more in the squad. So I think their depth is just really, really, really insane. And they've got so much youth, so much veteran experience. I didn't even mention some players like Jack Viney and Tom McDonald and Ben Brown, who can still be impactful footballers when they're at their best. So they're just really, really good.
And does the advantage of the ruck play a factor in that? Max Gawn, obviously, against Oscar McKinney.
I think it will. I know as of late, there's been a lot of debate about whether a ruckman really matters that much. I know Darcy, who's on here most of the time, he talks about how they're not really that important. But and we see that sort of with these sorts of teams like Collingwood and North Melbourne, who have really, really good rucks and don't even make the finals. But I think every game that Melbourne plays in the finals, they're going to have a massive advantage in the ruck. No matter who it's against, they're going to have the best ruckman. And I think same with West Coast, another one, Nick Nat made the All-Australian team. They didn't make the finals. So he's definitely gonna be massive, putting it down the throats of the best players that they have, the best mids in Oliver and Petrarca, who, as I said before, were all Australians, as well as Viney, who I mentioned, and so much depth that they have. So I think they're gonna win.
And I'll clear things up. It's not a matter of Oscar McKinney being below par. It's just Max Gawn is the best ruckman in the competition. Him and Sean Darcy and Nick Natanui, all 3 of them. It's a nightmare once you face them. Obviously, the All-Australian captain this year. But the door is now slightly ajar for the Power, and if they had any year to win it, I think this is their year. The Adelaide Oval was buzzing last night, and it will be for the next few weeks.
I think you have to put Brodie Grundy in that conversation still. I'd still rank him probably second, in my opinion. I know he's had a down 2 years, and I know Nick Nat's made the All-Australian team in both of those years, but Grundy's still one of the best players in the competition, and we know he's on that massive contract, and I'm sure we'll see him bounce back next year. But as far as Port Adelaide, they've still got a chance to play all 3 games at their home ground. So we know they played this one at their home ground last night. They're going to play against Brisbane at the home ground, and we know Western Australia has put their bid in and is going to get the grand final, but we know they've had a couple of cases over the last couple of days, and we never really know what's going to happen in this pandemic. So there's still a chance, I guess, as well.
And as far as neutral fans, we just want close games, don't we? I mean, on paper, all of these finals look amazing. Last night wasn't the greatest final. If you're a Port Adelaide fan, obviously it was. But we all just want close games. We want the 2005 Geelong-Sydney matchup. Well, Sydney obviously have to beat the Giants first today, which could be a good matchup, could be a big upset if the Giants do perform how they have in certain weeks this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, GWS, I've talked all year really about how good they are and how many good players they have. Toby Green and Josh Kelly are 2 of my favourites in the competition. Nick Haynes was on All-Australian just last year. They get Stephen Canelio, their captain, back. They've got so many really, really quality players. So they can beat any team on their day. But I think Sydney have been really, really impressive this year. They finished 6th, and I know all 3 of us, as well as almost everyone else, didn't have them making the finals this year. So I think they've been just about the most surprising team this year, and I really would like to see them win at least one final. And I think in doing so, they give Buddy a real chance to get to the 1,000 mark as well. Playing 2 games, he needs 8 more goals. So to play 2 games, he needs to average 4 rather than the 8, which will definitely help.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned surprise because I was just about to ask you if there's one surprise that could occur, what would it be?
If I had to pick one upset out of these, I'd probably pick GWS. Just as I said, they're really a good team, and I can definitely see them winning.
I'll head in a similar direction because we haven't ruled them out completely. The Dons, the baby Dons. Expect the unexpected. They've got some great young core and they might have an appetite to win a few finals this year.
I remember the point I was going to make, and that's just on the double chance. The Geelong aren't completely ruled out of winning the grand final, obviously. We know they lost against Port Adelaide, and obviously that's not the best start for them. But just as recently as last year, Richmond lost their first final to Brisbane in the qualifying one. So, but they obviously, as we know, came back and won. So they're not totally ruled out, and they're still a very, very quality team that can still win, obviously.
Yeah, just the Tom Stewart factor is a crucial loss, and it's hard to see them winning the whole thing when you're in the semi-final, but you can't rule them out like the Tigers last year. So yeah, still a big chance. The D's and the Lions is our expected finals, and once we get expected final, and once we get to it, we will do a whole preview and a review. So I'm just praying the finals are a great matchup this year, all of them. So any last words, Dave?
Nothing else from me.
All right, well, that's just a short, nice little episode. Hope you all enjoy your weekend and the footy finals, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the links in the description.